A lot of times when you introduce a speaker, you tell a lot about the history of this person. And we're not going to do that this morning because Ron's assignment is a history lesson in some ways. And I wouldn't want to give his history lesson and then him repeat it again. And so what I want to say about Ron is just he's an amazing man of faith. And just watching him from a distance over the years, just quiet, mild-mannered person, but really a man full of substance. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ron and just let him have his presentation that he has prepared. But I think we're in for a treat just thinking about the history of AIM and the impact that it's had and will continue to have. So come preach the word.
Thank you. This is AIM Chapel, and I'm not an aimer. But my wife and I love aimers. And we love AIM. And I'm going to be talking mostly to this part of the audience because that's what this lesson is about. It's about the heritage that you have in AIM. And there's a good precedent for that. Barnabas and Paul, after they made the first mission journey, came back to Antioch, and they shared what God had done through them in spreading the gospel into the Gentile world. And that's what I want to share with you, what God has done, is doing, and will do through you, through AIM. And the word that came to my mind when I was thinking about this was the word impact. The impact that you will have. But first I want to talk a little bit about the heritage because that's meaningful in this context. When you walk down the AIM hallway, you're surrounded by these pictures. And you think about all of the people that those pictures represent. But beyond that, think about all the people that they have come into contact with throughout the world. And the people that those people have come into contact with. And the people in the States who sent them, who are sending you. And the impact is amazing. If you look at that montage that's on the left-hand side, it's at the bottom of the stairs. Think about all the people that represents. And right in the middle of that is a group that I called the seed group. When we moved here in 1974, our oldest son was 4 months old. And our next two children were born here in Lubbock. And we didn't know anything about Sunset. We knew more about the church in Post, Texas than we did Sunset. But we came here because someone said, you can get some help with your thesis if you go to this school. I think it's called Sunset School of Preaching or something like that. And I think there's some instructors there that have been in the mission field and they can help you. And so that's how we ended up here. And we almost didn't place membership because the preacher was Richard Rogers at the time. He was never here. It was summer and he was traveling. And I think we were here 2 months before we ever heard Richard preach, because he was always going somewhere. But this group was in Dublin, Ireland at the time we arrived here. It's a group of college students that came to the elders and said, we want to do more. We want to do more with our lives than just go through school and go to some church, and we can preach the gospel wherever we are, but we want to do more. Can you send us into the mission field? And so they went to Dublin, Ireland. And they can't be called aimers because AIM didn't exist at the time. But they're the ones that AIM grew out of. And so you owe a debt to these young people. And you also owe a debt to these two guys. When we arrived here, Don Solomon and especially Nat Cooper were the ones that we perceived as being the ones that were pushing AIM, brand new program. The first AIM class was 1976. 40 years ago, going on 41. So we're in our 4th decade of AIM. And I think more than anything, Nat was the one that was pushing it, but also Don Solomon. And his daughter ended up going to Lesotho, Africa. So you owe a debt to these guys because they've had an impact in your life. Now the impact that you're going to have, I'm going to kind of go through this, and the first impact I'm going to talk about is the family. There's a lot of families that could be standing here talking about the impact that AIM has had in their lives. I'm privileged to be here, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity. The 2 couples that you see on the left is my oldest son and his wife. Sharon came here from Scotland so that she could go through AIM. She had been through the British Bible College and graduated from that, but she wanted to go through AIM. Now, I have no idea how she came into contact with AIM or found out about it in Scotland, but she did. Donovan and Sharon got married after AIM, okay? They went into Massachusetts. The couple in the middle is our second son, Ian, and his wife, Monica. And Ian went to India. Monica did her AIM time in Portugal. And all of our children were smart enough to marry people who were older than them so that they could be matured. And Monica and Ian met after Ian came home from India, and they met here after he had spent some time in Albuquerque. And they got married in California. The girl on the right is our youngest child, Christy, and the guy next to her is much better looking than that picture, but I didn't have a good picture of him. Christy did her AIM time in San Diego, and her husband, Mike, was converted while she was there, and they got married after AIM, and Mike went through the school here and graduated. Donovan, after he finished with AIM, came back and he graduated from Sunset and then also Texas Tech. So there's a significant impact that AIM has had in our family. When I think about what happened when we brought them here and we delivered them into the hands of the Sunset people with confidence that they would be taught well and that they would go out and serve the Lord effectively. It was a madhouse. Parents, kids, luggage, you go to this apartment, you've gone through it, right? And I remember when we when we drove away, we looked at each other. I'm sorry. And we said, these people are crazy. And they're going to spread the gospel to the whole world. And we said that every time we left a child here. This is the future. Our grandson came here this last week for AIM camp. And so you guys helped educate him better, right? You made him a better person by him being here. You're going to have an impact on your family and the families around you, but you're also going to have an impact on churches. I'm going to share with you the church that we came from. We moved here about 6 months ago from Wichita Falls. We were members at Faith Village Church of Christ, and these are the AIMers that I can remember, and I don't think I missed any, but I may have, that came from our church. Stephanie Satcher was the first. Melanie Satcher, her sister, went through. Donovan, Ian, and Christy were all AIMers. Mariah Thomason, Lydia Weatherly, Jared Blakeman and Cassie Webb and Kyle Fraser. Cassie and Kyle have returned from their fields and are living in Lubbock now. This is the future from our church, from the church in Wichita Falls. These are 4 Aimers, the AIM campers that were here this last week. And so I'm praying and hoping that one day they too will sit where you're sitting. But you have an impact on the churches because people who may not have been interested too much in the mission field are now interested because you're here. And it's very important that you send back reports and say, this is what's happening. Because they need to know that what they have invested in you has a return. AIM has had a significant impact on SIBI. I'd like all of the people that are in the resident program who are former Aimers to stand. All of the staff that are former Aimers, stand, please. If you're part of the deaf program and you were a former Aimer, please stand. Not yet. One day. Okay? Okay, great. If you're, I don't know if it's been around long enough for a Samer to have been a former Aimer. Okay? Not yet. It's coming. It's coming. And maybe there's some AIM assistants here who don't fit into either of those categories. Okay, so when we left here in '82, it was looking like it was going to be difficult for the student body to be maintained. There were fewer and fewer people interested in going into the ministry. The fact that people are coming back from AIM and serving and going through the school here have, in my judgment, from my perspective, revitalized and put energy into SIBI. So you've had an impact. AIM has had an impact there. AIM has had an impact in the world. This is the same slide, except notice the places where these people have gone. Lisbon, Quito. When Melanie was in Quito, her father came to visit her in Quito, and he came back raving about that work. And so the missions ministry sent me and another fellow to Quito to see about that work. And as a result of it, today, the largest contributor to the student, scholarships is Faith Village Church of Christ, and has been since 1995. And so there's a significant impact there. Our son went to Pune, India. Mariah Thomason, Peter Maritzburg, South Africa. Lydia went to Glasgow. Jared went to Glasgow. Cassie Webb just returned from Miami. Kyle Fraser just returned from Tegucigalpa, Honduras. And that's one congregation. You can multiply that across the United States and in other parts of the world where the impact in the world. Notice the continents: Europe, Asia, Africa, Central America, and South America. Now that doesn't represent, and then there's those really foreign places like Massachusetts, California, and Florida. Those are exotic too. So the AIM has had an impact there. It's going to have an impact on you. Whoever came up with the name AIM was super wise, because it spoke not only to the purpose, Adventures in Missions, it spoke to a generation that says, I want to have experiences. I want to live and have experiences. I don't want to just be worm food when it's all over. I want to live and live for God. and have an adventure. To me, the movie that best exemplifies our current philosophical mind is The Bucket List. The idea is, when you die, you've filled up this bucket of experiences. And these two guys were getting older and decided they were going to fill up their bucket list before they passed on. I think both of them had been diagnosed with cancer. So they jumped out of airplanes. They rode in race cars and did all kind of crazy things to fill up their bucket list. And when it was all done, Morgan Freeman said, "I'm sick of this. I'm going back to the people I love." So it's the other people that fill up your bucket list. And the impact and the influence you have on other people that fills up your bucket list. Now, if you're here for the adventure, great. God is using that attitude and that desire to put you in a special place. But if at the end of the story, all it is just one more thing that you can put in a bucket, it's not good enough. You need to focus on your relationship to God. What can God do for other people through you? That will fill up your bucket list. You will be changed. I ask our kids to share with us their thoughts about AIM. And our daughter-in-law had one regret, that she had served people without mentoring. She just took the job. She's got a servant heart. Monica is a servant par excellence. But she did the service without influencing other people, without mentoring. And that was her regret. But nevertheless, she did a super job. Our daughter shared with her mother that it was not until I came to AIM that my faith was truly my faith. And I hope you are experiencing that. When we came here, I had a form of faith that was more philosophical. And I'm so thankful. I cannot tell you what Sunset has meant to me. My faith is founded on objective reality rather than subjective philosophy, because we came here. Our son, he was a preacher for a while, so he's a little more verbose, but he said, when we left Boston, we were pretty satisfied that with the work we had done, but no AIM teams were coming to take over. So you just kind of think that the work is done. But then one August rolled around, and one of the young women we had worked with in Boston in the college ministry we had started showed up. Not only that, but she had brought her grandmother with her. It was a powerful reminder that being faithful, rarely glamorous or exciting, will always leave an impact, and sometimes you'll even get to see it. I didn't coach him to use the word impact. When I asked him, I didn't know I was going to use that word. So impact comes up over and over. You will be changed. You know, a lot of our society is not satisfied with scripted life. The most popular shows that you see are true life stories. There's a reason that reality shows are popular. Survivor, Amazing Race. And often at the end, especially when somebody is released from the show, they'll say, well, I'm sorry we didn't make it to the end, but it was a life-changing experience. It really wasn't a life-changing experience. It was one more thing to put in their bucket. They're still the same people after it. Only God makes life-changing experiences. Only God makes new creatures out of old creatures. And that's what God is doing through AIM with you. And you're going to have an impact on eternity. The people you come into contact with will be with you in eternity, many of them because you went, because you said, I will go. Bob Anderson shared with us the impact of saying, I'd like to learn sign language. You have said, here am I, send me. And you will have an impact. I'd like to share with you, in closing, a song that I heard while I was thinking about this lesson. It's from Dave Matthews Band. It's called Mercy. And only one verse in the chorus I'd like to share. Don't give up. I know you can see all the world and the mess we're making. Can't give up and hope God will intercede. Come on back. Imagine that we could get together. Stand up for what we need to be. Because crime won't save or feed a hungry child. Can't lay down and hope a miracle will change things. So lift up your eyes. Lift up your heart. Singing, mercy. Will we overcome this? Oh, one by one. Could we turn it around? Maybe carry on just a little longer, and I'll try to give you what you need. That's hopelessness. It's bootstrap salvation. It's the world wanting to get better, wanting to be better, and not knowing how. Notice that he eliminated God from the picture. Not going to happen. Man is not built to be better without God in his life. And you come to that world, that need, with 5 loaves and 2 fish. Just like that little boy. When I think about that event, which is one of the few miracles that is recorded in all 4 Gospels, and I think, who would I have wanted to be if I were there and there were 5,000 people out there? I can't be Jesus. I mean, that's too lofty an idea. Disciples, they were having trouble understanding how can we take care of this need? The little boy. That's who I would like to be. The one who said, I don't have much, but I give it to you. And you think about what Jesus Christ did with 5 loaves and 2 fish. God's doing the same thing through you. You've come to God with a little. You're young. Sorry, but you're ignorant. You're inexperienced, but you love God. And you're willing to give your life. And you will have an impact because you have what this song says the world needs. God bless you and give you all kinds of peace in believing.